Stephen Portnoy is now getting his mail in St. Louis. He's been here so long. ABC News correspondent Stephen Portnoy, good morning. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
You bet. I actually have to check in with the state to find out whether I owe taxes to Missouri.
Well, chances are you do.
Yeah.
Chances are you do. All right, so you were there yesterday. What are the thoughts you take away from the funeral?
Well, honestly, I think that the message of the Reverend Al Sharpton really is going to be what I'm going to take away from yesterday. 4,500 people, as you know, at the Friendly Temple Church downtown in on MLK Drive. And, what Reverend Sharpton said was, this is not about you, referring to the people in the audience, that it's about the legacy of Michael Brown. It's about the need to clean up and tear out the bad apples in the bunch of both police agencies across the country and within the African American community. And I think that some of the more lasting remarks that he made yesterday would be about how the African American community, elements of it, need to clean up their own act. And he talks about how you can't use the N-word and call your women hoes and then demand respect. I think walking away from that, people feel as though the community has had a chance to heal now. We'll wait and see what Bob McCullough has for the next 2 months to present to the grand jury. We'll see what the U.S. Attorney has planned, if anything, in terms of a federal prosecution. And ultimately, I think, we're on the second day of classes in Ferguson, and ultimately it'll be another news item before the dynamic changes.
How was that speech received from the audience when he said things like that?
Well, I mean, folks were on their feet. I mean, we definitely saw Spike Lee and the radio host Tom Joyner, leading the applause, and it brought a sharp response. Ultimately, I think there'll be some academics in the country who study African American issues who will say it's not that simple, and you can't blame the African American community for the way that black people are treated by police. Necessarily, but ultimately I think that much of the Reverend's message rang true for many people in that church.
Yeah. Now you turn to what happens next, and CNN releases this audio/video recording of a Skype interview, I guess, and they can't confirm nor deny, they can't authenticate, and yet now it's out there in the public domain. And so now here's another piece of information that the more we know, the less we know.
And just to flesh it out, I've looked into this CNN report. I don't know. Let me put it this way. Other news organizations would probably not take the step that CNN has taken today in putting out on its air and on its website a recording that it can't personally verify. I'll tell you this. I work, as you do, McGraw, in an audio medium. It's not that hard to create something that sounds just like that. And I have no way of knowing whether it's true or not. I have no way of knowing whether it's a real recording, and neither does CNN. Nor for that matter at the moment does the FBI, but apparently the FBI has been presented with this audio tape by a lawyer who represents the client, who says he recorded it while he was engaging in that Skype call in the neighborhood on Canfield Drive where this happened. Now, if that person's willing to sign a sworn statement and an affidavit, then I guess that's the best that you could do when it comes to entering it as evidence. But I don't think there's any way at this point that a media organization can say that this is an accurate representation of what happened.
Sure. And we find ourselves in this no man's land because there's all this chatter on social media and Twitter and Facebook and everything else. And the Josie audio was out there, and CNN decided to go with that. There was no way to prove that to be accurate. So we're sort of caught in this, well, people are talking about these things, whether they're accurate or not, or doctored, and then you have to sort of deal in facts. We in the media live in this strange world as well.
We certainly do. And, listen, I respect and admire the integrity of police agencies and prosecuting authorities when it comes to the importance of protecting evidence and presenting it and preserving it and keeping it secret to a point. But when you have a dynamic here where there is an absence of verifiable information. This is a criticism that Al Sharpton made yesterday, too. We still have not seen the full police report of what happened between Officer Darren Wilson and Mike Brown. We haven't heard an official accounting from the Ferguson Police Department. We just haven't. And yet the police department released the video of Mike Brown apparently robbing a store. It's that absence of official information that causes this vacuum that's filled with innuendo, with hearsay, with what people heard they said, with audio recordings like what we heard this morning, which we can't verify, of people talking on YouTube videos at cross purposes, contradicting what other people say. And there's someone out there who has information that they're not sharing with the public. They have their own reasons for it, to preserve the integrity of the investigation. That's fine. But think about the societal impact of that. We want a full investigation. We want it to be fair for the law. But you can't discount the actual harm that's done in the community in the absence of that information.
I was talking with a friend yesterday, Stephen, who was also a journalist. And do you find it interesting that we've not heard, even from the attorney of Officer Wilson, we've not heard anything? You would think that at least his attorney would come forward saying something about his client.
Well, Kelly, we know that he's represented by the Fraternal Order of Police. Listen, the man has a right to remain silent and stay out of public view. His supporters have basically done the same, and relatives. No one wants to even give their names on the record when it comes to, what they know about Darren Wilson. And that's his right. But ultimately, like I say, on this radio station and on others and on television stations and on television networks across the country and on street corners and in offices and at water coolers, we're all discussing these things. You can't say that if, you just hope it goes away, that it'll go away. So I don't know. Listen, certainly he has a story to tell. He's told it to police investigators. We know that. But there's more that the community, the country needs and wants to know. And ultimately, it's only up to Darren Wilson and his representatives to determine whether they want to share that information. I personally hope they do share it.
Stephen Portnoy, ABC News correspondent, covering the Ferguson mess here in St. Louis for ABC News. Stephen, be safe. Talk to you down the road.
Thanks, guys.
You got it. 7:58. I have just enough time to say this. A lot of people talk about why the police released the video of him, pushing the store owner around. How about this scenario? That investigation is closed. So they didn't charge Dorian Johnson because they don't think he stole anything. Mm-hmm. The other suspect, Michael Brown, is dead. Mm-hmm. So there's no one to charge. That investigation's closed, so they have to release that, right? That has nothing to do, in a sense, with the other investigation. Mm-hmm. So it was closed, so they have to release it. So they've been criticized for releasing that, but not the other one. This one is an ongoing investigation. Therefore, they're not going to release any information because the Ferguson Police Department is being investigated, in a sense, because one of theirs did the shooting. So it's an ongoing investigation. The other one was closed. Mm-hmm. That's why it was released.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's